Hello, Angie Malone, Cookies at 2. Agency in St. Paul, Angie Malone Agency, Farmers Insurance. Today I have with me Jamison. He is with Latuff Brothers in St. Paul. And where can they find you?
Hi, Angie. We're on University Avenue in St. Paul.
Yes. Right by Victoria?
Yep.
Yes.
Victoria's our cross street.
Okay, awesome. I have actually admittedly taken a few cars to Jamison to their auto body shop. They do a wonderful job. They are environmentally friendly as well with their repairs and their paints and all that kind of fun stuff. So they are on the leading edge of that kind of repair and industry. So that's great to have you today. So we are in the midst of winter driving, which is, yes, scary at times. And like Jamison and I had been conversing before, you know, you get in your car, it's a moving vehicle. You do have control of it. And sometimes there's other elements out there that take you out of control. But you can still, for the most part, stay in control.
Yes.
So I'm sure one of the biggest things is for winter driving is the snow and the ice, and there's black ice. And you can't see it. That's why they call it black ice.
Correct.
So in speaking of terms of, you know, coming from insurance, you're obviously always protected, and it's very important to make sure you have the good coverage because we want you and your family to be protected. We want the other people out on the road to be protected. We want you to be able to replace that vehicle if it needs to be or repaired. So I guess a couple things we'll touch on today is accident prevention, some tips in that, and then also what are some good coverages to make sure you're going to end up where you want to be if something unfortunate does happen? So with that said, we'll kind of touch on some prevention things. So you are more or less in control. And from what I am understanding, industry, insurance-wise, they're starting to call accidents now crashes because the majority can be attributed to human error, unfortunately. So with that said, what is one of the biggest players, you think, in accidents and accident prevention?
Especially in the wintertime, I think one of the biggest things is speed. Just maintaining a safe distance between other drivers.
Sure.
So we find that, you know, you have to really be aware of other drivers around you. You know, distance between the car in front of you, the car behind you, and on both sides of you.
Sure.
Because you never know if you could hit that patch of black ice. You want to be prepared to be able to maneuver or get out of the way of people.
Right, right.
So keeping distance, slower speeds.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's kind of really interesting is when we see cars in from an accident or a crash, you find that there's a lot of worn tires.
Oh,
so a great tip is to just keep an eye on your tires. Make sure you have good quality tires.
Sure.
We like to use the penny test.
Oh, okay.
So if you take a penny
Uh-huh.
and you stick Mr. Lincoln, President Lincoln's head down in your tire tread,
Okay.
you want to make sure he's covering up to the head.
Oh.
If it's below the head, definitely need to change your tires.
Oh,
It's
okay.
going to make a huge difference.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we see low or bald tires almost as
Sure.
a key indicator of somebody likely to get in an accident.
Oh, okay. And Honest Abe doesn't lie.
No,
so
he doesn't.
Try it out. Well, that's very important. It is scary. I mean, just last Sunday I was in the vehicle with my two daughters, and it was, you know, you could tell it was sheer ice. The elements were against us.
Yep.
But my biggest thing was, yes, make sure you kind of create a bubble of escape route, a bubble of there's space in front of you, like Jamison said, there's space behind you, there's space on either side of you. So if need be, like he says, if you do hit that black ice, if you do hit a slight patch or whatnot, or even if somebody in front of you is starting to go out of control, well, everybody's going to have to react. So slamming on the brakes and, you know, your kind of initial reaction isn't always the best thing. You know, you have to train yourself, create that pocket of, you know, diversion for you in the car.
And Angie, I don't know if you've noticed this too. Sometimes early in the morning, people are in a rush to get to work, and you see they're trying to drive, looking through a little hole in their windshield. So, I mean, one of the big things is make sure you can see. Make sure you've cleared your window, that there's no snow or ice on any of the glass
Any of the
on your
windows,
card.
yes.
Make sure you're keeping that clear.
Yes.
And watch out for those people that don't have it clear, because they can't see you either.
Yes. Very true. That's a little scary.
Yeah. And as always, just anytime, I mean, the biggest thing is, paying attention, staying off your phone. Don't text and drive.
Oh, yes.
Don't talk on the phone. I mean, when you're driving, that's your job, is to drive and be safe.
Yes. 2 hands on the wheel and 2 eyes on the road. Yeah, and like Jamison says, you don't necessarily know what the person in the other vehicle is dealing with. If they're, obviously if they're staring through one little space on their windshield, you definitely know to be on high alert. But yeah, you don't know. Are they eating? Are they talking on the phone? Are they trying to find an email? Thinking, oh, it's just slow traffic. I'll look. So always be on the alert, and that's probably the best thing, and travel at a safe speed. I think there's probably a major difference in the vehicles you come across. You can tell when one hit at 10 miles an hour versus 50 miles an hour.
Absolutely. I know kind of one thing, too, that's unique to winter that you might not think about is your cruise control feature.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's really cold out and you do never want to use cruise control.
Oh, okay.
Because what can happen is your car is going to sense if they start slipping, they're going to try to catch up.
Oh,
And
sure.
That's one other tip, is we've had clients in the past that have come to us because they were on the freeway in really cold temperatures, had the cruise control on, the cruise control slipped and spun them out into the ditch. So that's just one other thing to think about, too.
Wow, sure. I can totally see that because your cruise control wants you to get to that speed.
Yep.
So they're automatically just going to read the surface and the wheel pace.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to be like, zoom.
Exactly.
Not a good feeling. Keep you safe.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things, like I say, we talk about an insurance with our clients when they come in. Higher limits these days I believe are very necessary. The cost of insurance versus the peace of mind is, the benefits definitely outweigh the costs. You want that there for your family. You want that there, like I say, for other people. There are pedestrians out there. That comes into play, too. There's a lot of bike riders these days, all that stuff. Even in the winter now, we have people riding their bikes to work, which is great. But you need to be aware of that. And that does come into play in your liability and so forth on your policy. So from my agency, we love to sit down with you and talk through those scenarios. And having Jamison, as one of our contacts, it's great because not only we refer our clients to him for great service and repairs, but it's also the knowledge base he brings to my agency that I can then help serve my clients. So there's so many scenarios, Jamison, with insurance, different coverages. We have, gap coverage, for example. We have, some people just do liability coverage. Some people, so there's all kinds of scenarios that you think maybe you'd know what they mean, but until you sit down with an agent, you need to really look what it does mean. So have you run into scenarios, for example, so Farmers Insurance does have gap coverage for a new car within the first 2 years. So what that entails is if you would, for example, end up in a very bad accident and you have a brand new car and you have a loan out on it or a lease even, and it's totaled, well, guess what? You still have to make payments on that. So have you run into that scenario, that heartbreaking scenario?
Unfortunately, we have. I mean, that's why we definitely see value in an insurance agent like yourself who definitely goes over the client's needs and their situations and determines, what they really do need instead of going on to a website and just going out and buying state minimums, because there are so many different factors involved.
Sure.
Things like,
exactly.
Gap coverage that people might not consider when they buy a vehicle.
Right.
So, we see everything from, really heartbreaking stories where somebody did buy a car, they've only had the car for a year, and, they owe more money on the car than the car's worth.
The loss is being paid out at. Yes.
And so if they don't have that gap coverage, it really is a sad story.
Yes. Now they're looking at a situation, they still have a loan, which now there's a balance due, and they don't have a car to drive. And now they need to look at getting another car.
Yeah.
Okay, where does the money come from? So,
And there's
exactly.
so many situations like that. For example, we get people that come in and their car's out of commission and they didn't think about, oh, I'm going to need a car while my car's in the shop. So,
Right.
Someone like yourself might talk to them about,
Loss
rental.
of use and rental reimbursement. Yes, exactly. Yeah, you kind of think, you kind of assume everything's going to be okay, which is good. You want to have faith in your future, right? But you need the backup. You need the backup plan.
For
and
sure.
I think that is one of the scenarios is I often get that call. Do I have rental coverage? It's like, well, we talked about it, but you said you'll have family. Well, all the family needs their vehicle too.
Right,
So
exactly.
now you're the odd man out. So important coverages to talk about, like I say in the long term, talk about it, talk it through, see what is of value to you, in the package and that kind of thing, and make your decision from there.
What are you seeing for trends of people choosing a deductible? I know we're kind of seeing on our end a growing trend of people, they used to have $250, went to $500. Now we're seeing $1,000 or even up to $2,500 deductibles.
Yes.
And I'm just curious what kind of you're seeing.
So that is interesting. I am starting to see people willing to go those higher deductibles, and this is an interesting facet of that. If you pair that with loss of use coverage, okay, for example, so Farmers has different loss of use coverages. It's slightly different from rental reimbursement. Rental reimbursement is to strictly pay back the rental, okay? You rent the car, they reimburse the rental amount. Loss of use is an amount, so there's different levels. You can get, your car is in the shop due to a covered loss, you can get coverage per day, and it can be $25 a day, it can be $50 a day, up to certain maximums. So what that entails is, now you get $25 a day, you can either go rent a car or you can pay Aunt Susie to borrow her car. She might be more willing to let you use it, and then the other piece is, or if Aunt Susie, no, you don't have to pay me, well, guess what? Now you pocket $25 a day, $50 a day, you have this deductible. It has now cut that deductible back to your happy place. So there's a good marrying of the two. You can get your lower premium with the high deductible, and at the same time, you have loss of use coverage. So now you're paying yourself for the deductible.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So it's some fun scenarios. You can kind of work with the numbers, and make them work.
I can tell you my previous life, I used to work for a rental car company, and we specialize in helping people with transportation while their cars were in the shop.
Sure.
And it's interesting because 10 years ago when I worked in that industry, it was an average that we would figure somebody would need the vehicle for 10 days.
Oh, okay.
And now we're seeing that trend increasing. In 2014, it was about 11 days.
Oh.
And last year, it got up to about 12 days.
I can imagine. So what happens now, Jamison, in a normal vehicle these days, right? Who doesn't have a backup sensor? Who doesn't, there's lane changing sensors. There's even a simple windshield repair. Now those rearview mirrors are completely wired.
Yeah.
I mean, and the things they have in the windshield, it's not easy peasy.
I mean, technology is changing the auto body industry so quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, our biggest, most valuable tools now are computers, scanning equipment.
Not the wrenches and the, right?
They're still being used, but
Exactly.
it's really changing quickly.
You do the eval with the computer, and then you
Yes.
use the wrench.
Exactly. Everything's got to be scanned. There's so much technology in these cars. Somebody used to get a fender bender and just, the bumper is a couple $100. And
Right.
now that bumper has cameras and sensors, and that $250 bumper is now over $1,000 easily.
Yeah, and that could be a light tap at a stop sign that you weren't paying attention and you ran into the person in front of you.
Yes.
It gets up into the numbers, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So I think we touched on some good items today, and I guess we'll have Jamison back for another one because he is a great resource for us, and I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Angie.
And
Great to be here.
we're going to sign off for today. Angie Malone Agency, Cookies at 2 with Jamison at Latuff Brothers. And you can be found at again?
880 University Avenue on University Avenue and Victoria and St. Paul.
All right, awesome. And the really nice thing I'd like to add too, Latuff Brothers does have a quoting system that you can access through my website, angiemaloneagency.com, where you submit pictures and they can give you an estimate over the pictures and so forth. And then at least you have an idea if you even want to file the claim. And then we kind of proceed from there, and we partner with you to work with Latuff Brothers, and it's just a great scenario. So nice to see you all.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
Thank you.